For fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Under the Hood. Thanks for joining us.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. While the music was playing, Tom from New York got on hold, so let's get right to the phones and go talk to Tom. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, morning, guys.
Hey.
Hey, so got a quick question. I got a 2010 Toyota Tundra, non-mechanical problem, kind of an annoying problem. The temperature, just the outside temperature is set on Celsius, and I can't get it to Fahrenheit. Done everything I've gone through the manual, ended up going to a Toyota dealer down in Florida. One of the mechanics basically, told me what to do, which I said I did that. And he said, well, bring it to me. I'll make sure, I'm sure I can get it to switch over to Fahrenheit. I talked to a mechanic here in New York, service mechanic, when I was taking my wife's Toyota Venza in, and he says it can't be switched over to Fahrenheit. Now, one caveat, I bought the truck used. Truck originally came out of Toronto, Canada, so It's a Canadian Toyota. And I was just wondering, would you know, is it true that I can't switch it to Fahrenheit or what?
Doesn't matter, Tom. We're switching to Celsius. When I was in grade school, they told us we were going to go over to Celsius and centigrade. So it'll any day now, Tom.
Yeah,
we'll all switch.
When we learned that metric system, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. We had the same thing. Is your speedometer in kilometers and then has the miles per hour on the outside of it?
No, it's all miles per hour. Everything else, that's one reason why it had to be kilometers. I could probably live with the idea that maybe I can't get it to Fahrenheit, but no, everything else is American standard.
Does it have a button to switch your instruments on your dash from kilometers to American?
It does. When you right along the right side of right by the speedometer tachometer, there's a sets of buttons. Some for the sensors around the truck, and one of them, if you go through that sequence, I can't remember it offhand, but there is a way to switch that. But unfortunately, it doesn't work through the manual. And I'm sure the buttons work because I guess there is that possibility that one button sequence in that thing is just not working, but I doubt it. Everything seems to be working fine. But again, like I said, as soon as I talked to a service manager here in New York, he came right out and said, nope, it can't be switched over to Fahrenheit. I was like, that seems really odd, especially when another mechanic from Florida said he could do it.
Well, because he's in Florida and probably hasn't ever seen one of these, that's not a American vehicle, because the American vehicles, you can switch over to kilometers. The ones that are built in Canada, most of them you could not. And where we're at, we're not too far from the Canadian border compared to being in Florida. And New York is right across, and where I was in Detroit, we're right across the tunnel or the bridge there in Windsor. We would see a lot of stuff like this. So if it was built in Canada originally, you couldn't switch it back unless you have a button on your dash that changes everything. If you push that and it's just changing your speedometer only, you're kind of stuck with it. Your option for that would be to take it out and swap that unit out with an American one, pick it up like car dash part,
What unit would you switch, Russ?
The overhead. It's on your overhead, right, by your mirror there?
No, it's actually a small little display right in the center of the dash up by the windshield.
Just
And
above
it
the
basically
radio.
just has the time, time and temperature.
Yep, clock and temp.
And those, I guess, the hourly button and the minute button work on that. And then, but apparently the manual, you have to go to these other 4 button panels to do that.
You could change that. You could just swap out that unit there if you've got, if it's bothering you. Or just really, you could impress your friends, and when they say it's 30 degrees Celsius, you can say, "Oh, wow, it's a warm one today."
I think he needs to get a laminated graph to have taped onto his dash with Velcro.
Keep your mind, working.
That's right.
Just convert.
I'm thinking like a 4x6 vertical.
With a windshield map.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what we need. And then this is done. It's fixed.
Yeah, it goes back to what you guys said. When I first bought it, I was like, well, eventually we'll go to metric system, but I doubt it.
Does it if you do drive to Canada, does it bother you less?
No, actually, believe it or not, I mean, I guess these Tundras had a huge problem with their secondary air system.
Oh, yeah.
Which was when they break down, it was huge money. I took it to. That's how I found out it was a Canadian truck. Actually, I took it to one of the dealers here in America, here in Rochester, and they basically said, "Hey, good news and bad news. The good news is, the bad news is we can't fix it. Good news is it's under warranty. We got to take it to Canada." Well, fortunately, I was living in Niagara Falls at the time, and the dealership was just across the border, like 9 miles away. So they took care of it all. But I actually, while I was up there, I probably should have said, "Hey, if you can change that to Fahrenheit, go ahead."
No, don't do that. Don't tell a Canadian that they should change it. Can you just change this to Fahrenheit? What are you thinking? They're not supposed to do that.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. So I think, Russ, you're exactly right. The guy in Florida thinks, of course I can fix it. I'm just going to push that button. Oh, wait, it didn't work. Oh, there's a button. Oh, it normally works. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't drive all the way to Florida for that.
Been there, done that.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. I want to play this call quick that came in during the week while after our conversation in the most recent show.
Hi, guys. Just listening to your podcast from Bahrain. Just wanted to comment that I went to the first F1 race of the season yesterday here in Bahrain, and all the language spoken in the Drive to Survive show is in English because it's a universal language. The voices that you hear by the drivers and the control tower or their own engineers are the actual voice of the engineer. These cars are the jet fighters of cars, and if you get a chance, you ain't lived until you've seen an F1 race. They're really something else. And by the way, the poor teams are the ones with the budgets of $150 million, and the top 3, Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren, are the rich ones with budgets of about $500 million. Anyway, I enjoy your show. I don't have a car question. Just keep it up, guys. Take care. God bless. Bye.
What a
Chump
great
change,
call to
chump
get after
change,
that.
right?
Yeah. And I was
$500 million.
recently watching one of the newer episodes, and they were talking about, we have 2,000 people on this race team that depend on us out there.
ESPN was just putting out their numbers, and they said they had, and it probably has to do with the show that you talked about. I still haven't tuned into it, but they had the highest viewership that they've ever had for that first race.
Yeah.
The numbers were...
Well, it's because Chris talked about it on Under the Hood
Probably,
last week.
That is exactly
That's
part
exactly
of it.
what happened.
That's pretty cool, though, because like anything else, whether it's a movie that puts a certain car in it
Right.
that becomes popular, or if there's a show that takes off, or whatever it might be, that all of a sudden becomes what pop culture is looking for. And that's probably a big deal for F1.
For sure. And it looks like there's going to be a race, they think in Vegas next year. So I think we should probably go do the show from Vegas and go to that F1 race.
Really? I didn't hear about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's coming up down on the end of the strip there past
Sure.
the...
Past the airport and the
Oh, that'd be-
stadium and all
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Can hear it already. That guy had put some sound effects with that call. We had to trim him off so we didn't want you to think it was a fire alarm or something. But
Right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. Let's go to Illinois and talk to Ida. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Ida, what can we do for you?
Yes, sir. I'm having problems with my car. It's always got water inside of it when it don't rain, and a lot of things I put on the floor get wet, and I don't understand why the water is in my car.
well, that is not a good thing.
No.
Because it's not only the inconvenience of having it wet and getting stuff wet, is that eventually you build up like mold and mildew in that carpet and the backing that's underneath the carpet, and that's not healthy over the long term. So we got to help figure this out. So 05 Grand Prix is the second year of that new generation of Grand Prix. And do you have a sunroof? That's always the first question we like to ask.
Yes, I do.
All right,
do
so if our first place we would look, if you have a sunroof, is to make sure that the drains for the sunroof are open. Now, not everybody knows this, and some people do, so you can just tune out. But if you don't know this, we want to teach you. That sunroof, even though it has a weather strip around it, it's not a perfect tight rain seal on the roof skin of the car. They always are going to leak to the channels of the mechanism that run the glass. And
Quite a bit.
And it's more than you'd realize. And so off of those channels, they run
They account
hoses.
for that.
Yeah, so they have hoses that run down from all four corners usually, or sometimes they're pitched in such a way they have them on two corners, but most of them have them on all four corners. and it's like a tray underneath of a refrigerator, if you remember that back in the day. Not as many have those anymore, but we used to always have the trays under the refrigerators and freezers. It would catch the moisture, and then eventually you had to pull it out and take care of it. Well, this is like a tray around the windshield, around the sunroof, but it's got drain holes in the corners. And it's not that a lot of water goes through these all the time. So over time, if you get an extended period of dry where it doesn't get water going through them, or it's not a heavy rain, or you haven't been through a car wash,
winter.
Leaves.
you get leaves, residue. They can get plugged, and it can be plugged with that residue from dust and pollen and stuff in the air that just eventually builds up, or it can be spiders.
Not spiders.
It's snakes.
No,
Fine.
but insects, we have fun with that. But insects can work their way up from the bottom of the tubes sometimes and make a nest in the end of the tube or whatever it might happen to be, and then block, and eventually you get a blockage. So the first thing we want to do is have somebody that can help you, and sometimes you can blow it out with a little bit of air pressure, not a lot, just a small amount of air pressure. You don't want to blow the hoses off the end of it. Or if it gets bad enough, you can take a small rounded end, like a snake wire, if you can find the hole, and push up from the bottom and try to clean them out is a good way to do it. But that's where you start. That's the most obvious. Now, if it's not that, then we get into some other things. There is things that you can get into where windshields can be installed without the correct placement or the right urethane in the right places. You can get vents also in that cowl vent area where the water comes off the windshield, and then it will pool up, and eventually it can come back into the car through some of the HVAC area. So there's different things like that we need to look at. But the first number one suspect is going to be those sunroof drain tubes. And if you're looking, I bet you can probably find something on the internet that would show exactly where they run on those cars.
On mine, where I like to do it would be just open the sunroof and look, and you can see the holes in the front, and
Yep.
the back ones you can see into there with a flashlight.
On that car, you probably can. Some
Yeah.
of them, they're hidden, and you just can't get to them. So you kind of work your way from the bottom if you can, is what I've had to do. And I've had vehicles recently. I had one. You guys have maybe heard me talk about the older Range Rover. It's kind of turned into a restoration project, but that one was a real pain in the butt. Those hoses, as they get old, they were collapsing where they would run through the firewall.
Oh.
And so you had to run a whole new hose, which was not easy. So I ended up running half a hose with a joint in the middle of it to make it work. And so now I know I have an area just like a stint in a heart that could be a future problem,
Right.
but I've got water running through them again, and I didn't have to dismantle the dash completely out of the vehicle.
So Ida needs to find out where it's coming in, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the crux of it,
Because
right?
there are some of those cars that had some problems with body seams not getting sealed all the way on the firewall. There's some other things that it could be, because I know we saw a few of those cars come our way because of some of those problems. But the majority of this, I'm guessing, is sunroof related.
Ida, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Steve. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Steve, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning, guys. I've got a 2007 Ford Sport Trac with the V8 in it. I've got two things going on. One, I've got a knock on the right side when I first started up, and then once the truck warms up, it goes away. Is that a donut gasket on that exhaust manifold?
More than likely, if it's that noise can sound a little like a knock, but usually it's more like a tick, like a kind of thing. But
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, I mean that gasket flapping around can give it a kind of a tapping sound. But yeah, that's typically an exhaust manifold. That's the gasket's blown out or it's warped a little bit, warms up, seals that up. So that's not something to be super worried about. But the longer you let it go, the bigger the chances that the bolts are going to break off when you try to take them off to replace the manifold, because the heat builds up around the bolt and gets down into the threads. So the sooner you can get that changed, the better, probably the cheaper for you for replacement.
Okay, the other thing I've got going on my number 3 cylinder, I keep going through ignition coils, and what I'm finding is I've got coolant sitting on top of the spark plug. Now, when I pull the plug, there's no fouling, there's no coolant down into the cylinder that I can see. But I'm speculating that either I've got a blown head gasket or a cracked head. I've used some of that K-Steel, and that seems to fixed it for about 6 months, and then it just came back again. Am I looking at a head gasket?
I don't think so. I think if it's number 3, it'd be the third one back on the passenger side. Is that where you've got your coolant?
Oh, I think we lost him.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, just carry on with the
Hope he's still in
assumption.
there. Well, all right. So the heater hose on that side of the vehicle, they're known to leak a little bit at the quick connector, and it runs down the hose, drips onto the top of this spark plug boot, the coil boot, and it runs down inside the engine. So I got a pretty strong feeling that is where this coolant is coming from, and it's ruining that coil. So the fix is to replace the heater hose. Something about K-Seal, while it's an awesome product to repair small cracks and leaks in your mechanical parts of your engine, such as head gaskets and cracked heads, cracked blocks, what it is not as good at, but it will work, like you said, for about 6 months, is flexible rubber hoses, because they're constantly moving, they're expanding and contracting, and they're made of rubber, and it's just a different area, and they're very high up. They're not, so there's a lot more air that gets involved in those lines. It's not like block surfaces where K-Seal will work great. So that's also a great indication telling me that it's probably that rubber hose up there. In order to get coolant inside of that spark plug tool or tube,
You're there. Just keep rolling. You got this.
you're going to have a crack in the head from the coolant passage,
Which is
all the way
unlikely.
up to that, and it's too far away, and it would be a giant crack. It would just be blowing the coil right out of there. So I'm almost betting money it's coming out of that.
And that
heater
would be
hose.
a pretty easy fix in the long grand scheme of things. You should be real happy about that one.
Place a connector in the hose and dry off the plug. Give it the
Is
crisp.
is the exhaust leak on the same side, Russ? Did he say?
Could be. I
remember
think
if
he
he
said
said
passenger
passenger
side,
side.
but either side.
But if they go in there, they could maybe fix both things at once and have himself zero problems.
Yeah, sure.
That's what you want. You want zero problems.
That'd be the goal. He
Yeah.
asked about
You want zero problems. We want problems because we need
yeah,
to work
good
on
point.
cars.
That's
you
a
know.
good point.
You listeners and you want
Right.
zero problems. We need some repairs.
Some
to do.
problems.
You
Not
probably got to take that heater hose out of the way to get at the exhaust manifold anyway.
No,
No?
no, no. You just got to swear a lot and
is that
you
what
know,
take? Yeah.
take some skin, give some skin to the game. There.
Donate it.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. If you follow us on Facebook and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Rock Wright from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Oh,
Congratulations.
I got to call a Rock back. I forgot this morning. Oh, gosh, you just made me think of that. You know Rock I need to call.
Garignac? Rock. I'm thinking of Tim Allen and Galaxy Quest. It's a Disney thing. Chris, come on, you know that one.
Did he go over your head, too?
Yeah, always.
Oh, not
We're
always.
thinking-
No,
Always.
it's not
No,
always.
it's most of the time.
We're
It's
thinking of
always
our,
with me.
all right.
It's most of the time
Yeah.
maybe with you, but
We're thinking of our buddy Rock Nelson, who
Exactly.
is the import and export director
yeah,
at the
he wants me to
airport.
help him with something, and I forgot to call him back.
Very interesting person, for sure. Got lots of info on a lot of cool stuff I'd never even thought existed in
And
this
I
part of the
and I
country.
used to always think of the family just as Nelson's concessions at the races.
Yep.
They had good popcorn.
Well, our friends over at Universal Technical Institute have provided that hoodie graciously for you, and they want to remind you, if you are thinking about a career in automotive, which is a great field to be in, they can help you get trained for it with instructors who have got their information right, all the way up to the factory manufacturer, so they really know what they're doing. Check them out. They've got campuses all across the United States in warm areas and cooler areas just for you. Check out Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu.
866-594-4150.
Want to give a shout out to Colton Ahrens and his dad Paul sent me a text. They are right now sitting at Bristol Motor Speedway watching the Under the Hood show on the YouTube channel.
Cool.
And they're out there for the dirt races. Colton he runs a stock car out of this area that had a pretty successful season last year, and I know they went down there last year and they turned a lot of heads. They were running up at the top and they had this is huge dirt races leading up to the NASCAR coming in for the dirt races, and he was doing really well, and they had a mechanical problem.
Oh.
And he had won preliminary races and timed well, and so they're back to see if they can keep the car in one piece and finish well. So shout out to those guys out there taking the little Laverne, Minnesota team down to Bristol Motor Speedway to see how they can do.
866-594-4150. Here's a call that came in to the Hoodie Hotline.
Hello, this is Everett Nelson. I got a 2020 Pacifica Limited, and I'm trying to get some information on how many computers that car actually has.
What's your
I've been
what's
told
your
it
guess?
has 500 computers by somebody trying to sell me some auto warranties, which I'm not really in favor of. But I'm wondering if you have any idea how many computers that has. I wonder if he's counting every fuse and relay as a computer. If you get back to me, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, we'll get back to you right now. I just had to grab that. I got a call in. Our Hoodie Hotline is awesome, but you got to leave your phone number if you want us to return
And
your
I have
call.
to remember we're actually listening to a Hoodie Hotline call and that I
Exactly.
can't ask them something.
But that was so fun. I just had to record it because I get this question a lot, people, and here's where they're getting it from. Mr. Nordstrom, your warranty is about to expire. Do you realize your car has over 500 computers and you need to protect them today? So call us and spend more money than you can afford, and we will get you protected and probably deny your claim when it comes due. So, is that about sum it up?
That was
Pretty close.
that was good. I mean, there's some out there that are better than others, so you definitely have to do your research. But I would tell you that I don't think the ones that call you on your cell phone are the ones that I would buy.
And that's probably what's happened here. So there are a lot of computers, but there are a lot more modules. This vehicle itself probably has, I was just trying to add this up in my head, and it probably has 12 what we'll call computers that do more than just one little function only. But it probably has another 35 little modules that they could call computers as well. And if they want to count every chip in the instrument cluster, they could probably add another 14 there, and then every chip in the radio, that's totally unfair. But you've got an engine computer, you've got a front control module, you've got an body control module inside, you got a rear control module.
Chassis control modules in
Yep,
a lot of vehicles.
ABS. People are going to call the airbag a computer, and it really is a computer because it's doing a lot of calculations and things, but it's more along the lines of a module. But since it's doing data recording, we'll call that a computer. Then you have door modules in each door. You have a seat heater control module. You got a passenger presence module under the seat. Of course, you got your radio and your climate control, and all these things start adding up in the vehicle, and they can be expensive to repair.
Well, when you hook the scanner to it, it starts taking inventory of the connections that it's making.
Yeah, and there are some cars, BMW, Range Rover, even my Tahoe. If I pull up the Tahoe, I think there are like 38 modules that pop up that I can read data out of. And if I can read data both ways, I call it a little more than a module. It's pretty much a computer, but we're looking at things like front cameras, rear cameras, collision avoidance, front collision avoidance, near and far, radar sensing. All these things add up. So, yes, there are a lot of computers in cars, and you need a really good battery. When we start talking about our partner at Clarios and we talk about AGM batteries, we have a thought behind that. And our reasoning is you need good power to have a good functioning vehicle. And a good battery, that's where it starts. The reason why everything's going over to AGM now is because they hold a steady stream. If you've got computers in a car and you've got a problem with it, the first thing they say, you have good power and good ground and a good battery to supply that power and ground. They're asking me that first step in every single diagnosis, and then it goes on to check codes. They're asking me that before they're even asking me to check codes a lot of times. So it's a very important thing. So
And
a lot of modules and computers.
As far as that warranty goes, in all seriousness, if you are going to look, and we've talked about this a lot in the show, and we've had show sponsors, partners that were warranty companies, and I want you to do your vetting on these companies and make sure you research how long they've been around. Do they have a Better Business Bureau rating is a good place to start.
For sure.
Look on actual reviews and understand there will always be people unhappy with the reviews for any warranty company. I don't care what kind of warranty it is. Because if they didn't get what they wanted free, they're mad.
Or they didn't have to use it.
Yeah.
Even. Sometimes you'll see that.
So there are getting to be more companies out there that are offering policies that's you bring up a good point, Chris. If you don't use it, they'll let you carry the residual back to yourself or to another vehicle.
Sometimes give you cash back.
Yep. And so that's something that is a positive thing. But what we've told people that are our listeners before, if you're considering a warranty, if you can afford the extra dollars to buy the warranty when it's offered to you, wrapped into the financing, it looks really nice. You know, it's only an extra $14 per month or whatever it might happen to be. But when you actually add up what that costs you, and you could imagine putting away $50 a month or something like that just to put into a vehicle fund and have that sitting there. And this is a little bit of Dave Ramsey, but if you just have that money building, if you need a repair, you hopefully have the money there. If you don't need a repair, you save that money to make it for your down payment on your next vehicle.
Right.
A lot of times that number is actually realistically recently more like $45 to $48 a month, but people are scared because they probably got this new car because their last car died and was going to be way too much to fix. Don't forget the finance fee. If it's $48 a month, then you're paying your finance charge on top of that, so it's even more, and it's always easier to take that money, like Shannon said, and invest it, keep it, and earn money on it than to throw it away. But there are places where it is a very necessary thing. There's a lot of people who could never afford. They're making a car payment. They're right on the edge of their budget, stretching it. And if you have an engine die and it's going to be thousands of dollars in this vehicle that's, let's say you buy one that's 3 years old, 2 years old, and it's got 40,000, so it's out of warranty. 2-year-old Tahoe that needs an engine, it's going to cost you some bucks. So,
we've talked about if you could afford, and we used to always say maybe $3,000, but it's gotten to be more like $5,000, maybe $6,000. If you can afford a $5,000 repair that just comes up, and you have that money somewhere, you probably don't need to buy the warranty. You'd probably be best off keeping that money in your possession. But you're starting to see more opportunities where they're offering home warranties now, things like this. But you just always got to run that math, and you got to ask the question, can I see what it covers?
Right.
What does this actually cover? Oh, we got this warranty. No, but what does it cover? Can you give me an example of a claim that's been covered? You know, you got to find that stuff out because it's real. And there's some companies that do make it more difficult than others to get claims paid, and that's part of their method. And so you just got to be aware of the rating of the company and the way that they conduct their business if you're going to jump into a warranty.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Omaha and talk to Ron. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Ron, what can we do for you?
All right, good morning, gentlemen. I own a 2006 Chevy Silverado with the V6, 4.3-liter V6 engine. I keep getting an emission light, large leak on the emission controls, and I've replaced the purge valve and the vent valve. Where do I go next? Range.
I would suspect small leak if you had a purge valve or a vent valve issue. Large leak, I look for bigger things like the fuel cap, the O-ring that seals the fuel pump housing, the sending unit assembly to the tank, or a hose that's completely missing, or a big crack in the backside of that canister where you can't see it. The big leaks are, that's a large, quick vacuum leak where what it's doing is it tries to pull a vacuum on that tank after it's sealed it by closing those two valves off, and it's not seeing it change at all, so it's giving you the large leak. The other thing, people are going, oh, no, it could be this. Exactly. Well, just listen to the whole call. Here it comes. There's a sensor on top of the tank that senses pressure, and it may have failed within its voltage range, so the computer is not saying that the sensor's bad, so it's still trying to test, but it's not seeing enough change. Imagine a tire pressure sensor on your car, and pretty much all our listeners have had this, where they say, I checked my tire, it's at 35 pounds, but the sensor says 18, so they fill it up to 65. We have them come into our shop all the time like that. They're at 65 pounds of actual air with a manual gauge, but the sensor's still showing low. So you could have a bad pressure sensor. They'll just need to run a few tests on it to find out for sure.
I was afraid of that. I hate to drop that fuel tank to get to it. It would be a chore.
Yeah, if you're really good and have really small arms, you can reach up on top. And for us, I've taken them out by taking a really long, narrow screwdriver and a mirror, and then I put the screwdriver through the top, and I pop that sensor out and flip it over to the side.
That sounds like robotic surgery.
Yeah, and then put the new one in and get a wider screwdriver and push it down into the. It can be done. It's a little tricky, but
you need to get a Da Vinci. That's the robotic surgery things.
Yeah. Either that, or if the truck is in good condition and clean yet, sometimes it's easier to lift the box off, and have somebody help you lift the box off and either suspend it from a garage ceiling or put stands underneath it and get it up in the air so you can actually access the top of that fuel tank a lot easier than dropping the tank.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh.
We do that all the time.
Do not do that on a mid-age Ford pickup because the bolts are impossible to get out.
Yep.
But on the Chevys, they typically come out pretty nice, and you can lift the box up a lot easier than dropping the tank.
Especially one that's got a bed cover on it.
No kidding?
Yep.
That seems crazy to me.
Nope.
In a 16-year-old, I mean, that would be all right still, you think?
We would, like our dismantlers, when they go to take a box, if they've got tons of orders to do, but if they need to take a box off of a Chevy truck and it's not a rusty truck, and not very often are we taking the box off of a rusty truck because nobody wants the rusty box.
Right.
But if we have a truck that's not rusty and we're pulling that box off, you get a couple guys and a lifting device, they can have that box off that truck in 15 minutes.
Huh. There you go, Ron. Good luck. Thanks very much for the call. Let's hope it's not. Let's hope it's something.
Just a hose.
Yeah, exactly. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Ethan. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Ethan, what can we do for you?
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Question about, I have a 2007 Dodge Charger with about 130,000 miles on it. I want to hopefully try to get more because don't really want to have to replace it anytime soon with how crazy car prices are right now and everything. So I did a transmission flush on it, do oil changes about every 3,000, 4,000 miles on it, full synthetic. I'm considering doing like a whole front end kind of rebuild, shocks, inner outer tie rods, wheel bearings, brakes, just that kind of thing. What else would you guys consider to be like, oh, that'd be a good thing to kind of prevent a catastrophic problem from occurring on something with an older vehicle?
Well, driving it, like you want it to last longer. That's the first thing Shannon would say. Just drive it like you want it to get better mileage, drive it like you want it to last longer, and that'll help. When you're checking this thing over, fluid changes are very important. You don't need to overdo them, but it's an '07. It's time for a coolant flush. If somebody had told you this every year, I'd say they're nuts, but in '07, yeah, let's get that coolant changed, transmission flushed. The engine oil, keep up with that. These engines are real sensitive about not changing them on time. They're one that likes it a little earlier than a little later.
Which motor you got in it, Ethan?
3.5.
Yeah, that 3.5, we've had a few issues with some small things, but not more than anything else. But still, if you can keep that thing down, that 3 months 3,000 on that one, as opposed to the 5 months 5,000, which some engines will go just fine, you're probably going to be happier with the outcome of this. And then on the front end on that, yeah, we have a lot of suspension parts we do replace on those, and we found we've had a lot of struts we've had to replace on that. We found that the KYB shocks on the front of those do hold up very well on those vehicles, so that's something to think about if you're buying parts anyways and you got to replace them. KYB would be a good brand for the struts on the front of that to keep them on there longer before changing them, because a lot of people in '07, a lot of people already changed these 2 or 3 times on these cars, especially with the V8s. They just pound the seals right out of those things.
We see these cars come in regularly that have reached what would be end of life because of a chronic problem, and I think we had one just the other day. It was starting to look a little rough, but the car had 270,000 miles on it, and they used a similar version of that car in police pursuit vehicles, and they get them to hold up pretty well. Of course, that's usually they have a lot of those are V6s, but there's a number of them that are V8s with heavier suspension, but it's a pretty solid car overall. So I think if you do that maintenance, you'll get a good long life out of it. And I like the way you're thinking, because the replacements are either very expensive, or you may be able to find exactly what you want because the supplies are so low, so moving so fast.
Ethan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to Nebraska and talk to Mike. Mike, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, good morning. I just wanted to see how I would price a couple of cars I've got for sale. Everybody says that used car prices are going through the roof. Does that include 20-year-old cars? And does Kelley Blue Book update their information?
Great question, and we get this a lot, and I'm just going to start off by saying...
This is not a plant call.
No, but across the board, quality automobiles are increasing in value. If you've watched any of the... it's almost reality TV anymore to watch car auctions, whether it be Mecum or Barrett-Jackson. You're watching the real thing where people are spending money, and I think on some of that stuff, people get caught up in all that, and the prices can go a little bit higher than what you'd expect. But you've also got websites out there like Bring a Trailer and different things that people are putting things on that you see real similar dollars to what's happening at these auctions. And we've got a partner for our show, Autotempest.com, that takes a cross-section of a bunch of different search platforms and brings them into one search. All the cars, one search is what we say when we talk about it. But that is a really good resource to get some across-the-board values on different vehicles. You can find out what's available, see if there are comparables that make sense to you, and work it that way. I do have to ask, 20-year-old vehicles, what do you got?
A Navigator and a Chrysler or Dodge Mini Van.
All right, and are they in good physical, solid condition? Is the paint good? They're not rusty? The interiors aren't all falling apart?
Yeah, that's all true.
And miles are what?
No, that they're not. They're in good shape.
Okay.
Not ripped up and no rust.
And how many miles?
170 on the Navigator and 112 on the minivan.
Okay. Well, anything 2,000 and up. That seems to be the magic area. We're getting some stuff from the 90s quite a bit, and we're even putting engines in those. But 2,000s and up are the kind of the sweet spot of big dollar stuff. And like Shannon said, Autotempest.com is the first place to go if you're searching to buy a car. But you can also get those prices there because the book values are not keeping up as fast. They just keep changing every day. They keep going, and they're going up. They're not going down. I went to Autotempest.com last night. A lady called me and said, I have a 2002 Taurus, Russ. It's got 105,000 miles. The engine's bad. What can I do? And I said, well, you could put an engine in. Well, this car's not worth an engine. That's just be crazy. Aren't they expensive? And I said, well, let me look it up. I said, I can get you a pretty good deal on it because this car, there were quite a few available. It was $3,400. And I thought she was going to die. I felt bad for her because it's like, oh, that's a lot of money. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, she says, and this car's not worth it. I said, let's look it up. So I went to Autotempest.com. I looked up the cars. Those cars with 110 to 140,000 miles were selling in the $6,000 to $7,000 range. So I said, now what does it look like? I said, if you just scrap this car for a few $100s and you go buy another one, what are you going to get? Well, I want to get something like this one because I really like it. I said, it's going to cost $6,000 to $8,000. Oh, well, now it sounds more affordable to fix the one I own. I said, yes, it does. And as I'm looking, I'm seeing other comparables like your Caravans, your Navigators, things like that, and they're going for a considerable amount of money compared to what they did just a year ago.
And if you look at like your Navigator, the technology has changed. The newer ones look a little more modern.
Yeah.
But you're also going to pay $50,000 to $75,000 for an equivalent vehicle that's of the current design. Mm-hmm. And so there's a number of people that are saying, you know what, right now, I'm just going to keep in that market of that 02 or 07 or 11 if they can find one and work that. So I definitely would do the market research, and if the vehicles are solid, they're not rusty, the paint is good, the interiors aren't tattered up, you'll be surprised what you can get for them because that is the alternative to spending the big bucks, and it's also the alternative because you can't get the other stuff what you want.
Right.
They're selling a lot of cars. But there are people that have pre-ordered now that are coming in, and they're usually sold as soon as they hit the lot.
They've shut down some
Yeah,
manufacturing
the
again
Ukraine
with the new
crisis
stuff going on, and
is really put another.
China's got another wave of that, what stuff going through.
There's just a number of things happening again that just are not good for the outlook on consistent new vehicle production catching up, and components catching up. So the used car market, I just predict, is going to stay strong for quite a while.
I send everybody to autotempest.com because you just can't find cars. Locally, you're not going to get a big selection out of a newspaper.
Mike, thanks very much for the call. When you go to autotempest.com, you do have to keep in mind that you're seeing, in some cases, you're seeing the retail price. So it's not necessarily a one-to-one price of what your vehicle will go for, but it gives you a sense of.
You got such a selection, though.
Like when you used to go to Kelley Blue Book, you'd get 3 different prices.
Yeah.
You'd get the private sale, the
retail,
trade-in,
wholesale,
but no
value.
pictures. Kelley Blue Book, they didn't give you a picture to
Right.
represent. At least, autotempest.com, you go there and you can say, oh, there's a picture.
And you see a
That
big
looks like
range,
mine.
too. So you got to keep that in mind because you'll find, a large range on autotempest.com depending on what, because they're looking at specific cars. So, but it does give you a better picture of what your model is selling for broadly.
What
Right.
people are looking to sell one for today.
And it's so surprising. I think everybody that we've sent there has gotten a huge surprise
And,
recently.
And I've seen surprises the other way too, because and that's something that's always keep in mind. It doesn't mean you just give up. That's why you use a site like that, because there's value there too. You'll all of a sudden run across, this looks like a pretty good value. Ooh, I better move on this. And that is the thing. If you see something that makes sense for you, you better move on it.
We're going to take a break. Hour 2 is coming up. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls. 866-594-4150. We should mention you can call that number 24 hours a day, and you can leave your information, and we'll call you back during the show and get you on the show like Jim in Minnesota. Jim, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, thank you. I have a 2006 Ford Explorer with 188,000 miles on it. And when I had the oil change recently, there was an engine check light that came on, and they put the diagnostic machine on, and what they told me it is I've got a PCM faulty, and then there is two other codes, a PO446 vent control circuit and a PO455 evap leak. And they said that has to be done by a Ford dealer, but I'm not sure what all that means to the vehicle, or whether it's something that has to be done immediately. So whatever you can help me with, I'd appreciate.
Well, thanks for being a hoodie. We appreciate the call. We'll see if we can help you out there. We were just trying to think through the connection to those codes to each other. There's a couple of them I think might be connected for
Those
sure.
evap codes could actually be evap codes, or they could be because you've got a computer failure. I'm a little concerned with that one that says computer failure. There are some codes that will pop up in those computers and say RAM failure, RAM failure, random access memory, and they really don't affect it much. They still work just fine. Yeah, they don't turn the check engine light on. They're in there even though there's no other codes and no lights. So, but it could also be that is a failure in there, and that's giving you false codes for the other things. So we'd want to check that evap system and see if there's a failure in it, and if there is, repair it. And at that point, we'll check and see if your codes have gone away, because a short in one of those solenoids can also cause that false code to pop up in the computer that says computer failure. So I'd want to do a little diagnosing, but they are incorrect, and you have to take it to a dealer. You can go to any repair shop that has the equipment to repair it. Our shop like ours has the equipment to repair those systems, to put in any computer, program it, make it work, save you a bunch of money. Now, the dealer, yes, they could fix it, but it's probably going to be more money to do it that way than to go to an independent shop. So, yeah, just a little checking to find out exactly what it is, and then put in a computer, program it if it needs to be, some solenoids if they need to be replaced, and back on the road you go.
And we've seen some of those vehicles, when they get to a certain age, you can see some of those codes start coming up that are stored in there. And if the battery is aging and it's not getting consistent power, it can make it trigger some things sometimes. So, our friends at Clarios would remind us to make sure you get the battery health checked and make sure you're getting a consistent voltage supply with the that the alternator's working right and everything. Because if you have inconsistent power, it can cause some PCM issues.
Give you those codes for RAM failure.
Does that help you out there, Jim?
Yeah, that does. So it shouldn't be a problem with driving the vehicle right now. It's just a matter of getting it in and finding out what the codes are, correct?
Correct. The codes you have are not going to damage the engine or cause any harm to it. But if you do have a computer failing, there is a small possibility that the computer could just leave you parked somewhere. It could just leave you stranded. So if there is a failure that was major and it quit, yeah, it's just not going to run.
Jim, thanks very much for the call. Is there a year range where you would say, let's say it's out of warranty. Let's say I got the car, I bought my car, and I drove it 100,000 miles in a month. Is there a year range kind of where you almost have to bring it into the dealer, like, if it's a 1-year-old model or 2-year-old model?
Depends on how new a software the place is working on it. So if it's out of warranty and it's a 2022 model right now, because it's over that 36, we can work on it. If it's a General Motors or a Ford and most of the Chryslers, because we have the software for programming of those vehicles and diagnosing. If it's a BMW, an Audi, a Volkswagen, we do not. So there's some things we could repair. There's some things we couldn't at this point because I wouldn't be able to get into certain, let's say you had a window failure and it's not going up and down and I need to get into bidirectional controls to be able to operate the window. I can't do that on a car that new because the software hasn't updated yet. But thanks to over-the-air, programming online, the major manufacturers are very quick about getting that updated info out to you very, very quickly with Snap-on and the other diagnostic companies.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Brian. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Brian, what can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. I have a 2007 Chrysler Mini Van, and I just, it's got 200,000 miles on it. So, okay, there's that. But the biggest thing I've noticed is in the morning when I fire it up, it just idles rough. And, as I drive it, it gets better. Is it just a temperature sensor or something that, has to warm up, or is it the actual engine that has to warm up, or what's going on?
Well, we ask this question all the time just to make sure where we're at. Is there a check engine light on, or is it showing nothing on the dash?
Oh, no, there is one, but I know what it is. It's the oxygen sensors, the comparing ones. There's one upstream and one downstream.
So it's checking for the efficiency between a lot of those, a lot of that comes into catalyst efficiency, seeing what's been dumped into the system ahead of the catalytic converter and what the output is after the catalytic converter. And a lot that type of stuff isn't coming into play until you get into your closed loop as much on idle. And so the things that are starting up on idle are you're going to want to check and make sure that code's not covering up something else where it could be, all right, is my temperature sensor reading the right temperature? That's something that we talk about all the time. Is it actually showing, if it's 40 degrees outside, is it showing close to 40 degrees, or is it showing that it's 100 degrees outside, or it's showing that it's 20 below zero outside? And those are things you can see with the diagnostic connection. And so you want to check all that base stuff, but then after that you start getting into things that could be more related to the age of the vehicle and the state of tune of the engine when it gets to be that age. And then with temperature and RPM, you can overcome what may not be a smooth idle. Russ, what are some of the common things that you guys see on those? Is it a 3.8 or which motor's in that one?
It's the 3.8. It's the big one.
Spark plugs and coils, the wires. We have issues with those at that age. Even just something as simple as spark plugs in these could do that. They can, if they're worn out and fouled, a lot of wear in that gap there, you fire that thing up and it's going to take a minute for it to clear out and start running and the combustion chamber temperatures to come up where they should be and run smooth like it's supposed to. So I'd definitely be pulling out spark plugs and taking a real close look at that.
And we give a laundry list here sometimes, but if the vehicle's got 200,000 miles on it, there's a good chance that it does have some carbon buildup on the backside of the valves and in different areas. And in cooler temperatures especially, you're going to notice that fuel just doesn't atomize as smoothly at idle as it should, because it's just not that smooth, well-polished path that they make from the factory for all that to flow through, and then it makes it harder for it to idle at the lower RPMs. And that also comes into play if you get a cylinder or two that have got a little more wear on them. It could be a little bit of valve wear, it could be a little bit of piston wear, ring wear. Just a little bit of that over time can cause that thing just to run just erratically enough. The idle doesn't work as well. That's a lot of generalities, but boy, it's sure where you end up going.
That help kind of lead you.
Is there a fuel additive I can use, or a cleanser?
You could, but what usually happens
at this point, it's not.
Yeah.
That's not going to be.
We're making a big assumption here. We
Right.
kind of went down this road a little
Right.
steeper because of the miles on it, but
Yeah.
we do have people that use some cleaners and they'll get results. But it just may not get, if the problem is a little deeper with what we're talking about with some of the deeper carbon buildup and stuff, you may not be able to get that gone.
Yeah, you would have to go to the first step would be a professional fuel injection system cleaning, not just a pour-in. The pour-in's good for maintenance in between, but it's kind of like the cleaning at the dentist. You need the in-between brush and teeth maintenance to keep it going, and that's not going to remove the tartar and the plaque. You've got to go to the professional cleaning of that system. And like Shannon said, if it's gotten so bad that carbon can't be removed with a professional cleaning, it has to mechanically be taken apart and scraped basically. But if it's running good warm but not cold, I'd really start at the basics. I'm going to look really close at those spark plugs there. It may just need a good tune-up.
Brian, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. And not to sound, as the consumer on the show, that check engine light can be, once you find out that it's nothing, and you don't have to worry about it because the check engine light is a minor thing that you're just not going to fix, that does oftentimes make things worse because your car can't tell you when the next thing goes wrong, right?
Exactly. You gotta know what that is. And we're finding now lately with the cars the way they are and hard to get, more people say, I've had this light on for years. I want it fixed because I can't afford to have this car die on me.
And when you bring it in, then you have to fix that first thing to make sure that it's, so it can be a double-edged sword to know that it's just the O2 sensor or whatever. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. This is the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Got a question here that came in on Facebook. David wants to know recommendations for coilovers for a 2007 Honda Element. It drives sloppy. It has 245,000 miles on it.
KYB for coilovers. That's what we'd go with.
Okay.
You'll see KYB has a lot of stuff. Motorcycles, cars. I mean, they've been around. Shannon,
Snowmobiles.
You probably had them on your ATV, didn't you, back when you were a kid?
Yeah, one of them did.
Somebody did?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
KYB gas adjust.
we know this. I mean, guys, we know what a coilover is. But explain it for people who don't know what a coilover is.
Well, on like a vehicle like that, you've got, instead of a separate shock absorber off to the side, connected between the suspension, you've got a shock absorber basically inside of a compressed coil.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And so that
too.
is your
coil over
the shock
the
absorber.
shock.
So it's all an integrated unit. And when we first started seeing those, it was a big deal that you almost had to have a spring compressor in your shop because you would have to assemble them all. But now everybody's got some sort of a ready strut where it's all in one piece and put together, and that's a very normal repair. And that's like for us in the recycle world, in the beginning, we had high demand for struts because people wanted to buy just a bolt-on assembly and put it. And then the aftermarket eventually caught up and said, oh, we should probably build them that way. And so that's what ended up happening.
I remember the first time I had to buy struts, I was absolutely shocked at the price.
Yeah.
Because I knew I needed shocks, and in my mind, shocks were
$20.
$20. You see them on sale. Yeah. And then I had to get struts, and I think at the time they were $280 a piece, and I was just absolutely floored out of left field. But now, I think since then, I'm gonna knock on whatever. Oh, I gotta find some wood.
They always called them McPherson struts.
Yeah, that's right. Is that a style, or was that
I think that was
manufacturer?
the name of the person who made them,
Invented that suspension
them.
style.
Right. So it was the other makers of it. It wasn't a brand name. But now, do we replace them as much as we used to? They seem to have gotten better.
Yeah, we should replace them more than we do.
Exactly.
But so a strut, when it hits, let's say newer cars, like in the last 10 years old, 15 years old, 100,000 miles, they replacing them, you would feel the difference, and the car would handle a little better. But is it so bad that you haven't driven another one that was probably just like it, and you went, it's okay? Yeah, you're probably getting away with it. But when you start hitting 140, 150, you're like, this car's got quite a bit of bounce to it.
Or you follow it down the interstate and it's just kind of bouncing
But
over.
I'm still feeling okay. 200,000 miles. Oh, yeah, these things are shot and they're bouncing and oil leaking. But if you were to swerve to miss something in the road really quick at 100,000 miles, the chances that you would completely recover from that harm-free versus if your struts were, brand new, there's a big difference there. It's like new tires or worn-out tires.
In my car, I have adjustable.
Yeah.
Which is the worst thing that
You
ever
have
happened to
adjustable
me.
coilovers on your
It's the
car.
worst thing that ever happened to me. Because I think about it every time I hit a bump.
Should I change it?
Should I change it?
Should
Do
I make it softer? Should I make it harder?
perform better? And yeah, if I didn't know that, I'd be
Should
fine.
I slow down?
That never. Let's talk to Everett. Everett, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I was just wondering, I was looking at some warranty insurance, and the guy is telling me that on my 2020 Chrysler Pacifica Limited, there's 500 computers, he said. And that kind of got me wondering, is he counting every fuse and relay as a computer?
Probably.
Do you have any idea?
Yeah, there's way less than that. You're going to be down much less than that. But there's enough electronics on modern cars that if you can't afford the repair, if you need something repaired, you want to put a little money aside and save it. But if you can, I wouldn't spend the money on the extra warranty right now. But there's a number of computers in there, but nowhere near 500.
One of the things, Everett, just to think about, is that Russ repairs cars. He has a shop where they repair cars. I dismantle cars and sell parts. We do sell some modules, but not a lot. The modules do fail from time to time, but the ones that we seem like we sell the most have had some sort of trauma. There's been a water intrusion. There's been a problem where the car was used and it got really dirty and the modules would get just physically corroded on the backside where they mount on. In that new of a vehicle, what we're seeing in the market is not the module failures as much. The diagnosis sometimes can be a little bit tricky, but some of the warranty policies that we've seen, I've actually seen people get sold on the fact that they've got all these modules and these things to worry about, but then the warranty that they're going to buy does not cover those things. And that's extremely frustrating to me because that's totally not fair to the consumer. There's a lot of warranties that cover just drivetrain only, and you need to ask, will it cover the powertrain control module, the engine control? Will it cover the engine computer? Does it cover the transmission computer? Those major things. And so please be an informed consumer, and before you buy that, ask them exactly what it covers. Have them send you, if you're talking to somebody on the phone and they call you, or if you're at a dealership and they're offering you, and they won't provide you or take another opportunity, and they're making you say you got to buy now, and they won't let you slow down enough to get stuff sent to you either by a email or a fax or in the mail for you to read through, I probably don't need to buy that company's product. If it's a legit company that really wants to sell you something that has got merit to it and they've been around for a while, they'll let you study it. So keep that in mind.
Everett, thanks very much for the call. And just a note, Everett, if you go back and listen to hour one, you called and left a message. We actually used your call an hour ago, so thank you for calling back and calling us during the show. So, and if you're listening live, that might be...
Yeah, a couple different answers, though. The different ideas, a way to look at it.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Pauline in Nebraska. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, I have a 2005 Dodge Caravan, and about a week ago, the check engine light came on, and my grandson has one of them gadgets where it tells him what was wrong. So he changed I don't know what it's called. It's a box where the spark plugs run into, little black box, and that wasn't the problem. Now, when I backed the car out yesterday, I noticed there was some red fluid on, I put a doggy pad under the car to find out if it's oil or what it is. And it's red fluid. Now, I don't know where that would be coming from.
Well, a couple different questions there. We'll take the second one first.
Great idea, by the way.
Yes.
If you're dripping fluid, to put something down just so
one of
you
those
can
big
see.
dog pads
Yep.
that you use for like a pet that would be a little incontinence that you want to put by the door just to have ready. That's a great thing because it shows the color of the fluid so well.
If something red is coming out of the pet, there's a problem.
That is true.
Right.
And,
Out of your van? Well, that's a problem too.
Yeah.
Not near
Not as
as
big.
A problem.
If you have too many begging strips, you can get a really red out of the dog. Just to throw that out there. There's almost like a cross-section coloration that can happen. I went too far with
I
that.
guess
that's,
so, yeah.
That's good to know. I didn't know that.
But red fluid on your doggy pad underneath your vehicle is either going to be something leaking from the transmission fluid or a transmission fluid line or the transmission pan or one of the seals on the transmission.
Very common.
It could be power steering on some vehicles that uses a fluid that's a lot like, and some people will put transmission fluids of certain types in there depending on the vehicle.
Supposed to have it in there.
So you can have a red fluid come from that, but that's going to be the extent of your red fluids. Now, that fluid dripping is most likely not correlated to the check engine light.
Right.
Most likely not.
Right. It's probably something completely separate, but you need to plug in a scanner that can read that type of thing. If you plugged in one and it didn't really give you any codes, you'll need to try to, a little upgraded scanner, which might be something the shop is going to need to do to see what's going on. Some reason that one's not communicating and reading what it should.
And sometimes the consumer ones will tell you what direction to go, but not as much as a shop. And even at the shop, sometimes it can tell you what direction to go and doesn't tell you what's exactly wrong.
It can give you a code number 500, and it turns out to not be that system, something else. So
Sounds like you put a coil in it, just for some reason, and a lot of times that won't even be a code that'll show up. But it's a good place to start, is plugs and coils, and just get the thing running right.
It's going to need to go to a shop. Just ask around if you don't have a shop, if you don't know where to go. Ask your local auto parts stores. They're a great resource to find out a good, honest repair shop to go to.
Pauline, thanks very much for the call. We have to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Lisa Madden, who listens to us in Kilgore, Texas. Congratulations from all of us here under the hood, and we'll get that hoodie out to you. If you don't hear, maybe somebody else that knows will say, "Hey, Lisa Madden from Kilgore, Texas, you won a hoodie."
Where's Kilgore?
Kilgore is just next to Longview, not too far from Tyler. It's East Texas. It's Northeast Texas, right in the piney woods of East Texas.
I just realized I don't have any reference on Texas, so when I ask him where it is, and he says a town it's near, I still don't.
It's not helping any.
Right.
Shreveport, Louisiana. Got that one?
Dumas is about the only one I know where it is.
Oh, that's way down.
Yeah.
There. So Texas is really like its own country.
Yeah,
you've got mountains, you've got valleys, you've got desert, you've got hills, you've got flatlands, and Amarillo looks almost identical to Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Okay.
I mean, if you were dropped there and you looked around and the temperature was right, you'd say, "Have I left Sioux Falls, or have I left Amarillo?" You wouldn't know. I mean, it's really the same place. But then you go east; it's exactly opposite. That area, that East Texas area, looks like Rapid City, South Dakota.
Okay.
Hills, trees, pine trees, opposite, and then everything in between is everything.
Schlitterbahn.
Yeah. That's New Brunswick. That's down further south. Have you been there?
No.
Oh, you guys.
I just know
it.
it's in the hills.
Yeah, you guys would love that.
You just picked up the only thing that you could get out of your head.
Kerrville. We have a friend who used to live in Kerrville.
Outside of Dallas there, yeah. It's a big area, but I know I know all of pretty much every town. If you gave me a map that was blank and said, here, put a mark on Kerrville, boom, there it is. There, Tyler, Shreveport, Marshall, Gilmer, Gladewater.
You would win that game, Russ.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But if you start naming off towns that weren't major to me, like Euless, I know where that's at because of our radio station there. I know where, Lubbock, most of us could go, oh, yeah, Lubbock is way out west. I mean, we could name
Could
those.
you put Lubbock on a map?
San Antonio. We could put those, but there's
That's
a lot of,
maybe.
there's thousands of towns that are, I'd say west, everything west in that western quarter, that left, lower, southwest.
If it was used in a song, I may have looked it up once just to see where it was.
I'd be,
like Amarillo by morning,
Lukenbach,
How far
Texas.
would I have to go?
Do you know where Lukenbach, Texas is? I do not. I've heard that in the song so many times.
Waylon and Willie and the boys.
Exactly. I have no idea where that's at. I'm assuming somewhere down there by San Antonio. I'm just guessing. And like I said, I live there, but I don't know that southwestern quarter very much at all.
The hoodies are brought to you by Universal Technical Institute. Sorry, I got us off on...
You did that, Chris.
Yeah, that was totally your fault.
UTI.edu.
UTI.edu, and there you go. Go check it out. Campuses all over.
Yeah.
You can look at a map and find the campuses.
Lots of programs.
Yeah.
Things
They
you can
don't
do to
hide
make
them.
money.
They're right there.
They probably got one in Lukenbach, Texas.
866-594-4150. Let's go to California. I know where that is. Michael, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Michael!
That is a first.
I guess
That's
that
the
is
best.
a first, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm
that's
trying
awesome.
to load up a desk.
That's
I'm trying to
awesome.
load up a desk to go roll on the trailer. Yeah, name's Michael. I have a K2500, 1989 K20, just 3/4 ton 4x4 Chevy. I got to load my 6-12 cargo trailer up and load the truck up and drive from Oceanside, California to Palmyra, Virginia.
Ooh.
I got a piston slap. How do I know it's a piston slap? Because it sounds like a freaking rod, and I took it to a machine shop after my mechanic is convinced it's a damn rod, but I drive this. I haul this. Sorry, I haul
perfect.
this freight in my 4x utility, the smaller one, back and forth to Seattle from San Diego. I never had an issue except you hear the noise. Big deal. I have 3-4 trips over 4 mountain passes. Never had an issue. I put a tranny in it, put a 700R in it. It's still sitting there waiting for me to get back. And he hears it when we start it up after we get the tranny. I'm doing the transmission break in that process you got to go through. And we hear this. and he's convinced you can't drive this Oceanside or to the East Coast because you got rod knocking. It's the same noise as the Bush Road. So together we drive over to the local machine shop that we know. And the guy comes, he listens to it, he says, no, he says, you got a piston slap, big deal. You know, I've got a truck out there, just go listen to it. Same damn thing. You drive the damn thing forever. I got 70,000 miles on it. Don't worry about it. What happened apparently was...
Which motor is it?
Go ahead.
Is it a 454 or 350?
5.7. It's a 5.7 350.
Okay.
Throttle body.
Yep.
And I changed the flex plate when I put a brand new heavy duty flex plate. This is a heavy duty tranny. Put a heavy duty flex plate. I thought it might be the flex plate. It's not the flex plate. So
if your machinist, if you had a machine shop listen to it, and he thought it was piston slap,
and it is piston slap, you should be fine to drive it.
Yep, you should be fine. It's that lower part of that piston skirt has got wrong. The clearance has gotten big on it, and it's just rocking a little bit in that cylinder, and that will happen.
And it's not as common on that engine as it would be on a 5.3, the newer LS style, but it can. I've heard it happen on that. And if it goes away, if it gets quieter as it warms up, it's not a rod.
Yep.
A rod would get louder or stay the same. So as the oil thins out when it heats up, so you're probably okay. But that is a very long drive. I've driven from where we're at to there down I-90, and it's like 24 hours. So you've got a haul to get out to the East Coast. So, I drive it as easy as you can.
Watch your RPMs
Listen
as much as
to
you
it.
can.
But if you get all the way from Oceanside, California, all the way out to Virginia, and it doesn't change a bit, I'm betting money it's a piston slap. A rod would be gone through the side of the block.
That's a long way to drive to make that bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So you don't want that
I
to
thought you were
happen.
going to say,
Of course we know
If you
that.
get to the border of California and it hasn't changed.
Good quality oil and make
His
sure it
answer
stays
is if
full.
you make it, you were right. Yeah, we know.
There you go. So,
But judging by him knowing what piston slap sounds like and the machinist, you would go with piston slap?
Definitely. And like Russ was saying, a good quality oil. Make sure you got everything fresh when you leave.
and that's an older engine, so something good quality oil with the right ZDDP additive in there, the zinc protection like Royal Purple, something like that. That's going to be a good strong oil for that engine, and it'll hold up under that heat. Products like that are made to hold up under heat.
Well,
with
Russ, I
racing
know
and towing.
you use the Justice Brothers heavy vehicle, or what was it?
Heavy duty vehicle.
Yep, and you use that in some components, and you physically watched it lower the temperature.
Oh, I can
of
see it on our towing vehicle. It's
show
a truck,
truck.
so we could call it a tow truck. Hauling the trailer with that. I dumped it in the rear end. I dumped it in the transmission and in the engine, and I watched the temperatures physically be lower than before I drove. And it's friction. You're reducing friction. You're cutting down that heat.
Michael, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Todd in Wisconsin. Todd, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Oh, I have a 2017 Chevy Silverado, the four-wheel drive, and I'm having problems with my infotainment on the dashboard, like not coming on. So I can't get my radio or my temperature. The blinkers work, the speedometer light part of the dash works, but it's just an entertainment system malfunctioning. And I've tried all the do-it-yourself things from YouTube, pulling the fuse, detaching the battery cable, and behind the glove box there's a blue cable that you can jiggle around for the connection, and none of them seem to work this morning. If you had any other things I could try?
I think you have to try some different parts. The screens do fail, and then there's a module back in behind there. What is that called, Russ? The human interface.
The HIM.
The human interface module.
The HIM module.
And they will fail, and it's not just in that Silverado. You see it in other cars that have that similar display setup, infotainment setup.
And sometimes you got to replace them both together because they're not programmable. You can't program just the radio portion. But when the screens go out, that's separate from your radio. But a lot of times it's the screen and the human interface module, because if the screen goes out and shorts, it's like when an engine ignition coil goes out and kills the computer, and you got to put a computer in it. Same way with that. That display goes out, fries the human interface module.
And the screens are not as expensive as you would think. They are available. You get a recycled original equipment one. You can get new. The new ones, are they available? Somebody told me they were. I haven't bought one recently.
I haven't seen one available in a while because the price was so high on them that I've been purchasing used.
Yeah, so new ones can run $700 to $1,200 on some cars, but you can find a recycled original equipment one sometimes for $150 to $300.
Mm-hmm.
And so car-part.com would be a good place to look, and there's actually a part name for information screen, if I remember right. I'm trying to remember how that went, but finding the right part name can be a thing sometimes.
Car-part.com, a partner of ours and a partner of yours at the recycling
Yeah, we sell parts on there, and it's a place where people all over the country get access to know what we have, and they call us to buy it, or they email us to buy it or something.
Does that help you out there, Todd?
Yes, it does. Just another part of that, it would either, when I'd start the engine, it'd either come on or it wouldn't come on at all. It gradually started to happen more and more often, and now it just completely does not come on anymore. So and it would only happen right when I start the car. It wouldn't happen while I was driving. It would either stay off or stay on. So I don't know if that makes any difference, or it actually makes it sound like just even more so like a short. So
that really sounds like the display itself failing, but now it may have killed that other module as well.
And always make sure, like everything else electronic, making sure that you've got a good, solid battery with a good power supply, and there's no shorts coming out of the alternator or anything like that. And sometimes even a battery that is taxing the system because it's not quite up to capacity anymore, and you're getting to be 5 years old, 6 years old on that battery if it's still original. We have seen people put in a new battery, and our partners at Clarios tell us they get a good AGM battery in there because there's a lot of electronics in these trucks anymore. Good solid battery, good power supply. Problems sometimes get fixed.
Mm-hmm. Todd, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Dan. Dan, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, about last fall, before it got cold, we helped my son get a 2005 Ford Explorer, and then when it started to get cold, he wasn't getting any heat coming out. I've heard you guys before, and you talk about the blender actuator. We bought one of those and replaced it, and still nothing. While he had that apart, he just switched the door, pushed it over so he'd have heat. But obviously now he still can't change it. So I was wondering what other options might be causing that problem.
So you physically move the door, and then you could get heat.
Once we flip the door the one direction, now it's all heat. There's no changing it back or moving it back or anything. It's just all 100% heat.
And so the actuator that you put in behaves the same way poorly as the original one that was there.
Exactly. Nothing, like there's nothing there at all.
And you didn't see anything that was stripped out or, not operating?
Nope.
Well, you've got a control head in the dash, and you've got that motor. That's the only thing in between that runs those things. The wiring, unless a mouse has chewed through it, which is going to be pretty rare in one of those, it's got to be one or the other. Now, the part you put in might not have been any good. You never want to move one of those without it being bolted to the case. Some people have plugged them in and then turned the temp knob to watch them to make sure they're moving. If you do that, it'll ruin it right away. So
really? What's it do?
Well, it gets to the end of its travel and it overruns where there's some wipers in there that look
that
at the
makes
position.
sense.
It overruns it and it can destroy the thing. So same way with transfer case motor. Never turn on a transfer case motor to see if it works without it bolted to the transfer case. You'll destroy it for sure every time. So we're like, why are we getting these back for warranty?
That's what I was just thinking as you said that.
So, and you can take them apart and see if that's been done or not. So you could have another bad motor in there, or you could have a control head that's bad. But both those pieces are pretty cheap. You can pick up the control head used because they rarely fail. And then that little motor, they're, $30, $40, $50, $60, whatever they are. They're not super bad.
So the control head, what I guess I'm not sure what that is.
The knobs on the dash.
Oh, okay.
That unit, it's one piece.
It comes out like a radio.
Yep. So it's got a computer in it module. It's all one piece. It's super easy to take out. I mean, even if you've never done one, you'll see YouTube. The dash just pops right off the front, and you can get to it pretty quick.
Does that help you out there, Dan?
After we replaced the actuator, we did actually go onto eBay and bought another panel for the door. I'm thinking that might be that knob, and still nothing. So maybe it's that actuator. Maybe we got a bad one or something.
Very possible.
Now, just real quick, just to put a button on this, Russ, if this was in the shop, where would you be doing your tests for power and different things in case you had another problem?
At the actual actuator itself. I'd look at the diagram for it, check power and ground, and then the wires going back up to the...
So working your way backwards from the actuator.
Exactly.
So before you start buying too many parts, you might want to get a wiring diagram and just make sure you're getting the power where you're supposed to, because just to rule out that wiring problem.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Brad. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Brad, what can we do for you?
Hey, I had an 02 Impala with the 3.4 in it, and I was having problems with the number 3 cylinder. But finally, I just got this really loud squeal, and they said that I spun a cam bearing. So I got a new motor on the way. What's the difference between a GM rebuild and just having Russ build it in the shop? So, I mean, for quality-wise, am I better off buying a used one with the GM rebuild on it, or paying the extra and having somebody rebuild it?
Well, Russ isn't going to rebuild one in the shop, and rebuilders aren't really going to do those either. You're going to have three choices. You're going to have a certified used engine, which is a great choice on a 3.4. Just put intake gaskets in it when you put it together. Your next best bet would be an aftermarket professional rebuilder, which is what we use. Our supplier makes engines with 3-year, 100,000-mile warranties on them. That's going to run you less money than the OEM. And then the next one is the OEM rebuilt. And I'll give you a little hint. A lot of those OEM rebuilts come from the exact same company that makes those engines we're selling you that are already rebuilt. So those are your three choices. I wouldn't be afraid of any of them.
And I think probably
Just
a
look
better
at the
term to
budget.
use would be remanufactured.
Yeah.
Because they're taking the original OEM components, and the components that can be reused are reused.
The ones that don't wear.
And the wear items that need to be replaced are replaced with usually OEM components.
Mhm.
And so they were remanufactured. And so, like when a remanufacturer builds an engine, it might take them 3 or 4 engines of cores to get the components that they need to be in the right specifications to be the original OEM specs before they finish out with the wear items that they put on there, whether it be the rings or the, getting the valves redone and all that stuff. So the remanufacturing is very common on drivetrain components, and it is what's normally used. There is often another option if the manufacturer's kept enough supply around, or if they still have a current model that runs that engine, they can sometimes have a factory new engine that they come right off the assembly line with too. I doubt you're going to find that for
too old
for that 02 3.4 because they just haven't used that for a long time. But I hope that answers your question.
They said this. Well, this is coming out of Aberdeen, and he said that it was a motor it's a rebuild motor directly from GM, and it's got 50,000 miles on it. Must have got hit in the back end.
Okay, so this is a certified used engine that has 50,000 miles
Well,
on
it may
it.
or may not be certified used. It might just be a used one that somebody has.
Should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be like, I'm not saying yours should be, but that's the way to go. You should be doing that. But yeah, so it's came out of an auto.
That was wrecked.
Let's hope it came out of an auto recycler. It came out of a wrecked car. We know that. 50,000 miles on a reman. Yeah, that should be.
And just make sure they have paperwork to verify when it was done.
Yes.
And you can look on a source like Carfax, and if it wasn't done by Bob and Tom in their garage over the weekend, it should show up on the majority of the shops use Carfax as an integrated part of their reporting that they do to show some of this stuff. So that is something that I will tell people if they're going to be buying a component. I got a quick lesson. Customers will get a need, they shop. They shop the internet. They shop advertisements. Some people go to phone books yet. They take a look and they see we sell rebuilt engines. We sell remanufactured engines. We sell used engines. The highest majority of those places are all brokering somebody else's stuff.
Okay.
If you look into it, deep into it, Russ just gave me the name of one the other day, and I looked into it because I was curious because I hadn't heard of them before recently. And they were reselling any one of a number of 3 actual remanufacturers that made the products.
Which is fine.
Right. You just got to know what you're doing.
Right.
But when it comes to the used items, the recycled original equipment used items, very important that you deal, I think, with a brick and mortar store that has got some credentials behind them, because we have a lot of brokers that call us to buy our products, and they're all looking for the same high-demand items that we're trying to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had too many occurrences where that broker has misled the consumer and lied to them about the miles that it has. They've been, dishonest about the whole spiel. They're just trying to get a sale. Now, this is a dishonest broker. We've got some wonderful brokers that we deal with, and they're very, very good. But like when we sell something, you're going to see a picture of it. You're going to get the VIN number. So if they give you the VIN number of the component that you're buying, run that VIN number on Carfax to verify the miles.
And always look at where you're buying it. Like if you buy it from us here at Nordstrom's and we give you a 1-year warranty that covers parts and labor, you've got the power of a company that's been around for 53 years.
So just be
that's
very
gonna stand
aware
behind it, so.
whenever you're buying stuff like that, where's it coming from physically and who's actually going to back it if there's a problem.
Tony and Kurt, stay right where you are. That'll do it for the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Tony. Tony, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey guys, I got a 2012 Camry 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, and noticed that it started using oil. It's not leaking on the ground. About 2 weeks ago, I went and replaced the spark plugs, and I noticed the driver's side, the left-hand plug, had oil on top of the spark plug. And I was wondering if that might, is there some place that it could be leaking on top of the spark plug?
The valve cover gasket, where the valve cover passes, where your spark plug tube passes through the valve cover, It could be leaking right there and down into the tube. It's very rare to come up through a spark plug hole, a hole in the bottom, unless, you said this thing's burning oil. If it's using a lot of oil, it could be coming up around that spark plug. If it's getting so bad that it's not quite following it, but it's doing that, and the spark plug's not in there real tight, the seal is not good, the little washer's gone or something, that could be what's happening. But when you see oil in a spark plug tube, it's typically because it's coming over the top of the tube where the valve cover meets it, and that's where it's leaking.
Yeah, and you'd have to have a fair amount leaking there for you to notice as an oil consumption.
It'd have to be full and running out.
Exactly. And so in these new vehicles, and I say new, anything with a catalytic converter, you don't see the result of oil burning. You don't see the blue smoke that we became accustomed to when we were kids. And eventually I won't have to say that anymore because nobody's going to have seen blue smoke.
Right.
But usually oil burning is blue smoke, and that incinerator that's called the catalytic converter, if it's still operating with any efficiency whatsoever, that, 700 to 1,000 degrees will just burn that oil going
Every
out,
waste.
and you won't see it. So consumption of oil, if you don't see it on the ground, and you're not finding it slimed underneath the bottom of the car because you were going 80 when it started leaking, and it's dripping back by the rear bumper, you're burning it from somewhere. And then that comes into things like the crankcase ventilation systems can get icky and clogged and cause it to, kind of pull some of that oil back into the intake cycle.
Exactly.
And so you always want to check that positive crankcase vent, the PCV, and make sure that's appropriate. And in some vehicles, that's integrated as part of the valve cover, and that can cause them to burn oil. But if you eliminate all that stuff and you're still burning oil, it's an internal either head valve type thing or
12 Camrys.
Yeah, it's unusual.
We don't. Yeah, that's if this was a 17 to 19 Camry, I'd say we've had a couple of these lately, but the 12 is rare to burn oil, except for that valve cover issue.
And there were a few of those.
Yeah,
right?
I've got 254,000 miles on it.
Well,
at some point it might break.
It might burn a little oil at that.
Maybe not. You could keep going.
I've seen
for
them
quite
way
a while.
over 300,000 miles,
For
but at
sure.
some point it might break.
Tony, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Kurt. You're on the Under the Hood show. Kurt, what can we do for you?
I have a 2006 James Yukon Denali, and the traction active light comes on the message board, and the vehicle doesn't accelerate. It does this on dry pavement. I've been to two mechanics. They can't figure out what's wrong with it.
Well, if they've checked the normal systems, and I'm only saying this because I've heard it, but Russ lives it. But if they've checked the normal systems that are involved, your ABS, they're looking at, they've got data at all the wheels. They've got the correct data on the sensor for the steering position angle and all these things that are integrated. If all that looks normal and they can't find anything else, and it's what year did you say, 06?
Yep.
Then we're going to start looking at the what they call the Tac Module or the throttle itself, because 06 had an electronic throttle. They started that in the middle of 02. And so there's like 3 components involved in making that throttle operate. And if any one of those components has a fail and could be like the third layer of the candy cane forest for safety that they have on there, it will sometimes turn on that alert. And Russ, would you say the most common one is the throttle valve?
That throttle body valve is the most common one. Tac module, probably the least common out of all of them. The accelerator pedal second. And then the third one is probably the wiring harness between the Tac module and that throttle body.
Because it's a separate harness that they run
on
from
that one. And there's a number of them that the wires got bad near the ends. And what you can do is start the vehicle up with it just sitting there idling, go under the hood, and just gently wiggle around the wires that plug into the throttle body, and then follow them back right next to the brake booster on the firewall. There's a Tac module. Wiggle those wires a little bit. And if you can get that code to set by doing that, then it's probably in the harness. If it doesn't set, then get something like a small rubber mallet and just lightly tap on that throttle body on the side with the little electric motor on it, with the black cover. And if it sets a code, it's probably in the throttle body. That's a couple ways to give it a test. And then sometimes if you bang on the side of the accelerator pedal, you can get it to set a code too.
Russ did a lot with these. We had a factory performance division, and that motor was one that we probably did more than anything. Was that generation of LS motor, and we learned a lot. And so, it's a great setup, but that is where you'll get a problem that will feed back because it sees that this throttle might not be quite right. And there's somebody on YouTube that's got a really good video where they actually took one of them throttle valves apart.
There's 3 sensors in there.
Yeah, and it is really the redundancy for safety is pretty impressive, and so it can be one of the redundancy sensors that just isn't quite working right, and it says, "Oh, I'm sending a signal here. This isn't right. We got a possible problem."
Does that help you out there, Kurt?
Yep, that'll work. Thank you.
Thanks very much for the call. All right, that'll do it for the Under the Hood show. Thanks to our call screeners today.
Yeah, we had Tammy and Alyssa help out. Our normal screener and producer Doug had a little bit of a health thing kind of pop up, and so we got prayers for him. I think he's doing good. He's in the right place. They wanted to just check him out a little bit closer, so our prayers up for producer Doug Mashik. He'd probably saying, "Why are they saying anything?"
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Doug. Hi, Doug. We miss you. We got to have a contingency plan in place. We're figuring that out here too.
Yeah.
So. We've got Alyssa is from our accounting department here at Nordstrom's Automotive, and Tammy is also from that department, and she happens to be my wife that works out of our house in Garrettson. So we had her coming in, and she said, "You know what? I just realized I have an appointment I got to be at 10:30." She said, "Well, let's get Alyssa up here, and we'll get her to help too." And so we got a couple of backups for call.
She did
screeners.
great.
Yeah, did really good. So thank you all, and a little behind the scenes, what's going on? Because like any business. This is a business, and you need the right people in the right places to make it work. And if something changes, you don't always get to hear what's happening to make it happen. But we still rolled the show out without a key person today, and we'll learn from this and keep rolling forward.
And I'm discovering, especially in the last 24 hours, the key person.
Yeah,
I mean, no doubt about it. The key person. Any one of us misses. It's barely a blink.
Oh,
when
yeah.
Doug is missing, we're like,
How
do we do
but
this?
what about the? And
Yeah.
we've had no less than 5 conversations where we sat down
Yeah,
at lunch
we
over the
gotta-
last 10 years and
Yeah.
said, "What if someone dies?" Conversation.
We killed each other. And
He's
said,
not dead. So we're like, what are we gonna do? Now this is the after party, baby.
Now we need to
Hey,
act on that.
Yeah, we're gonna do that right now. So I had a great one this week. Have you seen my video, Shannon?
I saw a sneak of something that it looked like
It's only 15 seconds.
Like Russ's head was bouncing in front of something.
Oh yeah, I've been doing a few of those lately.
No, but it just like your head got mysteriously placed like it was on a popsicle stick and going like this in front of the camera.
Well, that is how you do TikTok and YouTube Shorts and stuff.
Yeah.
You have the screen behind you of what's going on,
is
and
that how you do it?
stay to the side. So if you watch it, you'll see what's going on, and then the person's talking to you. Yeah, that's what you do.
When I looked at what
They're 15 seconds. They're
I didn't
shorts.
listen to it because I was in the middle of something. I saw it, but it was like you were on a popsicle stick. Like it was a cutout of Russ on a popsicle stick getting put in front of the camera.
Cool.
Circle me, Bert.
There you go. Did you do the edit in a big circle?
Right.
Yeah. Bert Blyleven.
Yeah.
Minnesota
Circle
Twins.
me. Circle me. Didn't you see the title? How to rotate your air filter?
Oh yeah,
Russ, I didn't. You didn't catch me enough.
Well, it's either got to be the cool picture of the popsicle stick or the title that catches you and sucks you in.
It was your head bouncing around is what got me. That's what caught my attention.
All right.
Did you ever do one about?
He didn't ask the question about the air filter.
Yeah,
Can you believe that?
Tell this because you should go look at the video. Talk about what happened.
Okay, I'll find it while he's doing that. This is the after show.
And someone dared to ask me, well, how do you know that's what happened? Well, I know what happened because we normally change this person's oil once a month because it's a mail carrier vehicle that is on dirt roads continuously, hundreds of miles. So we change the oil, we check the filter, say, you know what, the filter needs to be changed usually about every 3 to 4 trips because it's getting pretty dirty. So 4 months. So we look and say, yeah, it's dirty. I'm going to put it back in. There we go. You're good to go next trip. Well, the next trip, they happen to be in a different shop because we were busy. It got to be too close. They care for this vehicle. Person took the air filter out, brought it to them, gave them the, hey, you should really change this. It's really dirty. And they said, no, I'll just have my regular shop do it. Next time, it'll probably be about time because it's about every 3 to 4 trips. So she saw the air filter. They can see the side that's really dirty. and they can see the other side that's really clean because that's how you show it to people, right? That happens at Quick Lubes all the time. It's like the MO. It's like, oh, look, you should really change it. They put the filter in upside down when they put it back together. They flipped it.
Rust on a popsicle stick right there.
Yeah, look how dirty the inside of that is, Shannon. They rotated the air filter, so they put it in upside down. And in this Honda, you can put it in upside down if you just flip it vertically one time. So they probably went, oh, it's not fitting, and they turned it around and they jammed it in there. So they closed it. So what did it do? It sucked all the dirt out of the air filter into the engine through the mass airflow sensor. We put a mass airflow sensor on it because it had codes for it. It was, not
it was
good.
Bad.
And I mean, that's bad. So you shouldn't have to check your work. You should be able to trust where you go. But in this case, it was upside down. So that was the how to rotate your air filter video. I had another one on there that was pretty cool too. It was, I didn't realize till yesterday I was backing up and one of my guys said, hey, you check out this camera. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's got a backup camera in his Volkswagen. The emblem on the rear of the car flips up when you put it in reverse.
Oh, yeah.
And the
So it
camera
protects the camera otherwise?
keeps it from getting dirty going down the road.
What kind was that?
Volkswagen CC. They've got a few things that are a little odd in
Yeah,
those
they were
cars.
ahead of their time on that car.
We're doing a trans in it, and you put it in reverse, and you hear this floop, and it opens up. So I threw that on there because I thought it'd be
neat.
Funny. Those little short videos, I try to put them on there for stuff that's, fun.
I didn't even notice if you made one for if there's more wheels or doors.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
on there.
I put that up there, and a few people, I think that one had passed its
Yeah,
time.
we were late.
We were late.
Yeah, because when my daughter asked me, they've already been talking about it for days.
I was kind of surprised. When I first put that first short up there, looking at analytics, we can see who watches what. 84% of all the people that subscribe to our channel watch that video in less than 24 hours, which is a pretty high number.
Yeah, it is.
And those were our subscribers. And then other people watch, about 3 times as many watched it from just outside of YouTube that saw it. But sometimes you can't help but watch it. When they're that short, when you're scanning YouTube and you're looking at stuff and you see a video, sometimes as you're going through, it just starts playing a few seconds.
My attention span apparently is shorter than 15 seconds.
So many times we go, well, this is only a minute long. We might as well watch it.
And if you don't watch it, just hovering over it, and if it plays for 10 seconds, you go, no, I'll move on.
Yeah.
Well, you've watched it because you've already watched more than 50% of the video.
There you go. All right, that'll do it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on the Under the Hood